obsessed with animation, and they also went to the Apple website and they were like, "Look how cool this is! We want this for our website too." They asked for my advice, like, should we do this? Yes or no? And how easy is it to do? What would you recommend them if you run a business, you run an agency? Like, what level of animation do you need? We are kind of live now. This is what I always wanted to say. We are live.
And we're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment.
How's it going?
There we are. It's going well. How are you?
I'm good. How was the weekend? Happy New Week.
Well, very happy new week, for sure. Yeah. Project I've been stuck on for a while. I was finally able this morning to unstuck it, which is a wonderful moment for myself and for the client as well. So all good feelings here. How about you?
Good. It's been rainy for the last actually over a week now. And then it's sunny this week, so I'm a happy boy.
Well, that's a rare occurrence in Canada, is what the TV shows and movies tell me, at least. I'm not sure how true that is.
If you're going by the movies, then we all live in paradise. Not the case. But the rainy season seems to have extended. But I've been dying to do some gardening in the backyard, so that's been delayed. But we're back.
But that's too bad.
We're back at it.
Yeah. Well, it's been the opposite here. We had, I think, a 26 days streak of no rain, which sounds wonderful, and it is as a person. But then we also had a lot of dry grounds and that kind of stuff, which is bad for gardens and drink water quality and all that kind of stuff. So, but now it's raining, so we're all happy that it is raining, which is the opposite of your situation. But maybe we shouldn't bother or bore our listeners too much with rain and that kind of stuff.
Oh, you don't find it exciting?
Yeah. All right. Well, today I was, my suggestion for a topic for this week was motion and animation in projects, websites, portfolios. I'm curious what you think about, is it overdone? Do we make things are we moving things too much? Not enough? Do we have, banner blindness, from back in the 90s, but then for animations? What do you think?
Yeah, I think with any new tool, I think animation is becoming more accessible with like the new tools that we're using. So with any new tool, we're often overusing it just because it's this shiny new thing. So like using it for everything, page transitions, scrolling effects, parallax. But I think there's probably a happy medium. For portfolio websites, I think you should be focusing on the content, not how fancy your transitions are. I don't think we're hiring you for your transitions. But I'm always a fan of micro interactions. So like the subtle things that you as a user would never even pick up. But it's that slight transition, the burger icon that switches to an X when you open the menu, a little delightful thing. Just subtle things that reinforce like the experience that you're going through versus being bombarded with these bunch of sliders, motions, transitions that are just, I think, overwhelming and distract from the main goal.
Yeah.
Here's what you think.
Yeah. Well, I like the subtlety, the one you're mentioning. If you go to the Stripe website, then you have a dashboard with an arrow without a stem, but then when you hover it, it extends to become a full arrow. Like that little thing is very nice. And it's also it can be a guidance for users. For example, I designed an onboarding experience for a startup, and then imagine you've done 5 or 6 steps. You're finally done, and then you are dropped on the dashboard for the first time, and that's a big transition. Design-wise, you go from more of a wizard type experience, lots of white space, one question per screen. And then suddenly you see tables everywhere and empty states and buttons and all. You can go in so many different directions suddenly. But then the thing we want people to click on, like it has little wiggle, like, hey, you need to be here. I think that's a nice little touch just to grab the attention from a user that's potentially overwhelmed because of all the change. I like that type of animation.
Well, plus you're
Not
also
so.
like navigating them from like a heavily transition heavy like onboarding flow. It's like, okay, I'm still in that state. There's something wiggling that's getting my attention. So it's less of a, to your point, like a stark, okay, onboarding, dashboard, metrics, let's go.
Yeah. That I think that's a good reason to have some animation in your product design. And in some cases, I think the big over the top animation works, but mostly for landing pages, for an intro, just that first little wow moment, but not for a full page. Like if you animate the whole thing, you might as well not animate at all. Like then it loses its value if it's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I see it. Like I think animations in the hero are like that fading into welcome to the website. It's super nice to see. But if you're scrolling and then have little things that come out, it's cool for like maybe like a marketing agency or some kind of like over the top brand. But like the purpose of a site is to get me to go somewhere or like to feed me to like a form, have me sign up. And if I'm distracted by the animations and not reading the copy that's on that landing page, then we've missed the mark somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's true. So would you say that animation is something that happens in between reading, but you shouldn't animate something that should be read?
I don't think you should be animating. Like if you're reading, I shouldn't be distracted by an animation, I feel.
Yeah.
So like you can imagine like a 2-column layout. You have some copy and then you have an image. If that thing's bouncing and buzzing,
yeah,
I'm not reading the copy that I should.
No, that's true. Then if you would go from that section to another one, then it can animate out of view, and then the new one can animate into view. Then once it's in view, it should stay still.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have like during the transitions, this image move from this section to the next, and you can rotate in 3D, do all the flips you want, but then it should pause so I can read what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do like animations for hover states and buttons and that kind of thing. When you hover a button, it can rotate a little bit, or it can start appear to float, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think transitions are great. Like button hovers, obviously, like I know that I can click it, like give me that extra interaction and not that flat click. I don't know what happens. So I like the part of that is accessibility. So like making sure that it looks like I'm able to interact with these buttons or these links. So like simple, just like text link, the underline disappears or appears. You get fancy by kind of playing with the transitions. But some of that is kind of like UX focused. So you're kind of communicating that you can interact with it and it's doing its next action. So hover, active, pressed, etc.
Yeah. What do you think about Apple product websites? And if you would go to the Mac Mini page, like there's so much animation going on, and also with the custom scrolling, I never make it to the end of the page personally. But
yeah, I think they're just they're showing off their shiny new thing. I don't think anyone's reading the tech specs. I think it might be a different audience. We want the shiny. There's an iPhone that comes out every year, or maybe they've spaced it out every 2 years now. But like their customers want the newest version. It's basically them saying like, here's the new thing, and we'll have it do gymnastics to get you to buy it.
Yeah, well, that's perhaps a good UX kind of lesson. That when someone goes to your website and they already know what they want, more or less, that in your example, like the new iPhone, perhaps them being able to read isn't as important as wowing them with all the movement and rotating the phone and being all about like, look at the shiny object,
Mhm.
So maybe the lesson then being understand with what type of intent someone is on your website.
Mhm. Yeah. I think for the Apple example, I think it's what they've done is essentially just made a website into a commercial that you can interact
Yeah.
with. So
That's a good one.
if you've seen their videos, they mimic the same experience on their website. So,
Yeah.
but the difference is you're able to kind of interact with it and scroll down and see. Uh, it's rotating it to see how many ports they have. Is it USB-C? How many USB-C ports does it come with? Or whatever it is you're purchasing.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Mac Mini myself.
Yeah. Me too. It's something I have to stop myself from buying.
Well,
I
because
don't
they
need
make it
it.
so accessible. Like the price point is so low. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's powerful and it's not too super expensive as compared to
True.
like the MacBook Pro or the
Yeah.
Pro.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we all already have a monitor, keyboard, and a mouse, so you don't need any of the extra things. But I've been able to hold it off for now. I'm still looking at my MacBook Pro M1.
Okay. It does the job, right? It
It
does the
does the
job.
job. I don't notice any slowing down.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine you doing any like 3D rendering or video editing. So,
Well, I used to. I think about a year ago, I did my last video for a different type of client, podcaster, YouTuber. So I did a lot of
mhm,
editing for him. Uh, but then I think, the benefit from going from a M1 to an M4 Mac Mini or whatever type of Mac is basically just that
mm,
the rendering at the end, instead of taking 14 minutes, it will take 11 minutes. And I don't mind that too much, the 14 minutes. I'm not going to buy a new computer just to shave off 3 minutes. But I would buy the new computer just because it's super cool and tiny and powerful,
yes,
and then perhaps, just to bring it back to the animation, if I'm like, wow, that's cool on the website, I think I will naturally relate the wow, that's cool on the website to wow, that's cool in real life. So I
mm,
must have it.
of course. I'm curious. You mentioned though that you were doing YouTube editing. How does like motion play a factor in those types of videos?
Well, I made custom transitions, and we're back again with transitions, just like you
Yeah.
mentioned a few minutes ago. This person had a 30 to 60-second intro, just announcing the guest and announcing the topic and that kind of thing, and then it would transition right to the "Hey, welcome to the show" type of intro. Beyond the intro, that transition was fully custom with his branding color, his logo being animated, that kind of thing. And then for certain guests, I would have a custom animation for the custom animation, and names popping in and out and that kind of stuff. So motion was a big part of the show, but not as much as some people in some shows. Like it wasn't on YouTube type speed. Short attention spans, shorts, and cutting out all the ums and that kind of thing. So it was slow watching on purpose, and that naturally means that there's slow motion on purpose as well.
Okay. I can't imagine slow motion meaning we're slowing down to like minus 5x.
Yeah, no, and then it came out of my mouth, and I was like, that's something that would probably sound a bit strange, but no,
I've
it's
watched
really,
that
yeah.
video.
No, it's just yeah, maybe that's one of the tips and tricks for motion. Like we're already talking about it a little bit, that you have to match the type of motion to your desired goal type of audience. So for Apple, it's really like over the top, super cool wow moments. You mentioned websites where people have to read. Well, then it's just slow down, let people read. And then you also have, let's say you're a marketing agency and you have a landing page, or you're a designer and you have a portfolio page. I think both of those would require something in the middle between the two outer variants we discussed so far. A
Yeah, I think
portfolio can have a little bit of wowing.
yeah, exactly. I think for a product, I've been my what I usually do is like keep any animation to like 350 milliseconds to be specific.
That's very specific.
It's very specific. It's subtle enough that you don't notice it, but if you pay attention, you will. Um, but outside of that, I think animation within a platform like or a web app, um, like loading states are super important. Um, so if you're loading anything over like 10, 20 seconds, first of all, hot tip, please don't use the spinning wheel. So I don't know what's happening. I'm a big fan of using some kind of it's like animation, whether it's you're uploading a document, create a loading state, make it dance jump. So like you're distracting me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when I'm waiting these 30 to 10 minutes to get my result. I think it's great to kind of put some delightful moments. So again, not looking at that spinning wheel that's super frustrating.
Yeah. Especially if it's just a spinning wheel without any words or progress bar. It's just spinning. I mean, it could have just as well been timed out by that time. Like you don't know if it's actually spinning, actually loading, or if it's just stuck. Like it's super frustrating.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I had a project recently where it was about uploading a document and it using OCR, so using AI to basically extract the content from the document so it can inject it into the application. And like the average time is around like 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So part of that, I had to kind of figure out a way to add a bit of patience to the users. Basically broke out the loading into kind of 3 different stages, essentially just mimicking or being transparent to what's happening in the background. So you can imagine, like, first, we're just analyzing a document. So you have like an icon with a little animation on it, little copy, title, subtitle, just explaining what's happening. So you're being transparent, educating, and also giving value to the brand and also the app that they're using. So it's not like you're doing this imaginary black box thing. We're telling you what's happening. And then having a little loading bar. The caveat was that we didn't have like the constraint from the development point of view that we didn't have the progress. It was basically like a black box, but we knew what the average time to completion was. So basically we essentially just faked the progress.
right.
Average time of processing time is around 1 minute and 30 seconds. 33.3% will be this first step, then the second, then the third. And we hope we get through all 3 steps, and then we'll expose the extraction on the other end.
Well, that's interesting, and I think a place where a product designer can really make a difference. For example, what do you do if it takes? Like, what do you show if it's taking longer than expected? But also, what do you show if it's quicker than expected? Like, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think
Was
with
that out of control?
it's out of control. So, so like the length of time really depends on like how many pages you're uploading. So the amount of content that you're having the AI extract. If it was quicker, I think it was fine. Like we have these 3 stages, but if you're still at stage 1, it'll cut, then you to the next stage. The user doesn't care. Like I'm getting to my end result.
Yeah.
This animation is just to get you to understand what's happening and then give you a bit of patience. It takes longer than essentially what we did was like the last step is a bit longer, which is fine. But at least they've seen some progress. That little bar goes from 0 to 90, pauses there, and then once it's done, I'll trigger you to the next step.
Right. Okay. So it would stick around at 90% for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And does it so? And then once from the back end it gets the flag like, "Hey, we're done." Then it jumps to 100.
Exactly. You got it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
But also
Makes me
you
think
think dynamic.
Sorry, one more time.
You also can make it programmatically, however you say that word, dynamic. So if you see that the average processing time moves up or down, just do that calculation. So it gets better and more accurate over time.
Nice. Makes me think about like the really old school Windows progress bar that would stick at 99% for forever.
Yes.
And then, or at least in my experience, it felt like it would take forever, which is another UX challenge. You're talking about patience and making users wait and making it delightful enough, or not frustrating for them to wait. which is quite challenging, I guess, especially with all the things that can go wrong while extracting data.
Well,
Like if it would take super long, like would there appear anything like, oops, it's taking a bit longer, please hold or click here or something, or do they just have to wait?
yeah, I think in that case you had like a max time limit. If it goes over like 5 minutes, something's gone wrong. So you just you create that edge case. If time is more than 5 minutes, cut, throw an error, ask them to try again. It could be or reach out to your customer success agent just so
Right.
they're not stuck. So you either try again or they have some kind of solution based on the new
Nice.
choices.
Yeah.
But
So
I think
did you have
yeah,
anything to say about the design of the animation? Like, was there any type of creative freedom, and what kind of tools did you use?
I used what did I use? Was it Jitter or it's one of those because I'm an After Effects person and I have been. I'm not the
Lottie,
greatest.
perhaps.
No, not Lottie. I would love to use Lottie, but I think you have to install uh, like the JavaScript files to kind of facilitate Lottie within your project, and then it gets heavy, and it
Yeah.
has an impact on performance. So for this go around, it was the output was a GIF, uh, as rudimentary as it is, but the animation, the colors in the animation was essentially, it was basically a document with like a scanner out animation.
Nice.
So two colors, GIF, you don't see the quality difference. You just have to export it at 3x and then scale it down, and it looks high res. Um,
Nice.
but I think I used a tool called Jitter.
Yeah.
I think that's the one. Super useful. You have like these presets and you can get to where you need to. You
Nice.
don't have that fine control, but like you don't need it for some cases. And in this use case, it's like I have a file, I have the scanner bar thing that's in a PNG format, make it go down and disappear, and I'm good.
Yeah. Well, we're not making Pixar movies here. It's okay to use a preset. It's
Exactly.
that's more than good enough. Um, yeah. So I spoke to someone like they run a marketing agency. They for their customers they do advertising on social media. And then really the A/B testing there just to get as much return on ad spend as possible. They were really obsessed with animation, and they also went to the Apple website and they were like, "Look how cool this is! We want this for our website too." They asked for my advice, like, should we do this, yes or no, and how easy is it to do? Like, what would you recommend them if you run a business, you run an agency? Like, what level of animation do you need? Do you need to do lots with a big, with lots of wow effect, or do you need it to be subtle for them to read and convert? Like,
For an agency site specifically,
yeah, or well, whenever you're selling something, could be an agency, could be you selling a course or a book or whatever. From a
yeah, I think
seller's perspective.
yeah, the context matter. I think agencies like their websites you get a lot of leeway. Like you're coming to them because they're seen as creative. That's what they deliver. So um that's what I see a lot of agencies do. Like instead of just a landing page, here's what we do, hire us. You want to communicate like what your abilities are through your website. So it's more of like a portfolio. Well, I mean, it is a portfolio, right? So you want to show off what you're able to do, so that if a customer's coming, you're like, oh, we want to do something exactly like it. They know already that you can do it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
Versus a course, like I think you don't need that much different that much animation. Just like here's what I'm offering. Here's the benefit to you. Here's the pain point that you have. Here's my remedy. Buy my stuff. Give me money.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it feels like a whole different type of transaction. If for a course you're mostly taking away uncertainty for someone who's considering purchasing your product. You have to show social proof and perhaps give away a free chapter and tell something about yourself. Just to convince them that you are actually a designer, for example, not just someone trying to sell a course on how to make money selling courses. That kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a much more, there's much more convincing involved, and that probably requires more reading and things being simpler. If you are a designer, you are offering your services. I think then your portfolio is your first project. Like you say, it's you have to show off a little bit. You have to show what you can do. Like if your website is unaligned and the grids and layouts are all over the place, then that's not a good sign for you as a designer, where you should be able to do that, neatly. So like, and then on top of that foundation, if you can do like subtle animations and have a little bit of wowing there, like, oh, that's nice. I think that really helps. Um, so I would say a designer is more in the upper end of, the spectrum of how much animation you should use on your website.
Yeah, I think that's the burden that us designers have, like as opposed to like just like a plumbing website where it's just here's what I do, here are the services. We we are designers and we are great at the craft, so part of that has to translate to our websites and our portfolios, which probably adds to the reason why it takes us forever to update our websites
Yeah.
because we have to hit that bar.
Well, I've been working on my portfolio website for a while now. For my Dutch version, at least, I have a new version live, which has a very basic level of animation.
Well, first of all, round of applause for pushing that line.
It took me 4 years. So, I mean, I really had to, because it still said I was 28, and it still said I lived in a different city, which wasn't true at all. I just wanted it to be up to date, and but I still have a list of like version 1.1 nice to haves, and about half of them are animations, just little hover interactions and that kind of thing. So it feels also, from a practical standpoint, like, done is better than perfect. I'd rather have my new content on the website first, than if I have some time left over, which I never have, to be honest. It's then it's time for some animation, I guess.
Yeah, I think I agree with like done is always better than perfect.
Yeah.
I had a mentor session yesterday actually. Um, she's redoing her portfolio, and then she's like, I'm using this tool. Should I be using Webflow? Should I be using Framer? And all these
Mm,
animations.
yeah.
I'm like, first step, work on the content, and then
Yeah. For
make sure
sure.
that that's solid. Get that out, and then you can start
Yeah.
applying. Um,
Mm,
and then you can do all the fanciness later, because like I know us too well. Once you have to learn a new tool, and then you have to like, oh, there's this thing, and it's that shiny object syndrome.
mm,
Um, and then you'll never get it out. You'll be working your
no.
portfolio for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Instead of showing it to hiring managers and potential clients, that kind of good stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned mentoring. Like, is that a little side business of yours, like coaching and mentoring designers?
Yeah, I've been doing it for free. It's like uh, it's out of my goodwill and heart. So, um, um, I mean, to be fair, like it just kind of hits home when I first started my career. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when I first started, I think 3 or 4 months in, um, it was me and the senior designer at the time. And he had quit month 3. Um, so I had lost my mentor at my first job ever, and I was left to swim.
Yeah.
So with that became like the theme of my career, left kind of swimming on my own. So I think um, back to our mentorship conversation, I think it's super important um, to give mentorship to junior designers who are um, trying to figure things out. Um, they're taking boot camps, which kind of gives you like a maybe 10% of the picture of how things are done. Um,
Yeah.
you're not generally, I think, uh, like you're not generally starting a project from 0 to 1. You're maybe it's 50-50. You're like jumping on a product that already exists. Um, so there's no course for how to start working on a product that's already 90% there, and you have to deal with like the engineering constraints. You can't redesign the whole thing because that's too expensive. The ROI is not there.
True.
Um,
True.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's very interesting and very true. That Google UX course, for example, it's really about design thinking, step 1 to 5, like the whole thing.
Mhm.
And then what you're saying is something I see as well. You're always jumping in somewhere, halfway through the process. Like there's always some outdated piece of software already there.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking that starting from scratch, even though that's what you're being taught, that's way harder. If there's nothing there, no process, no frameworks have been chosen yet. Like there's literally nothing except for an idea. Like
Mhm.
that's super tough to work on as a designer. So that's not in boot camps either. Like it's really theoretic. Like here's design thinking, here's the double diamond.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
And also you have to be aware of like the budget. So like generally if you're starting something new, you don't have unlimited budget because it's not generating any revenue. So
yeah,
you're starting off in
true.
the red. So it's
Yeah,
to your point, understanding what that MVP is and how can we quickly get something out to validate. Um, because we can get, I think designers can get very creative. It's like, oh, I wish if I had all the money in the world, this is how I would design it. It has all these little micro interactions, these
yeah,
transitions.
yeah,
It could take a developer 7 years to build.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And in year two, they're out of a job because they're out of budget.
Yeah.
Which is yeah, well, that I mean that's a good way to also see the animation stuff. Like it's probably not part of an MVP, probably not something a startup would work on. You know, not at first. Um, one
Tough one
one
though.
thing. Sorry,
That's a
one
tough
more
one
time.
though. Like when is animation part of the budget?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something you always have to like shoehorn in. It's just like make sure you just do it. Don't ask for permission because you're never gonna have a animation sprint budget
I
approved.
that's yeah, that's what I did for a project a while back. Yeah, well, I think that's the downside of like one of the most important skills of a designer. I think one of the biggest things to be able to do as designer is to be able to determine on your own, like, should I do this design? Go into this direction or into the other one. Like, what's important for the business now to help them survive? And let's say you go left, then the idea on the right, it's put on a shelf somewhere. But then the downside of that skill is to just forget everything you have lying around. Being able to bring it back in and have it become enough of a priority for founders and developers to actually work on is super tough. I haven't been able to do that consistently. In most of my, especially my corporate days, they abuse the MVP word. And then MVP normally means we do this first version, get feedback and improve it. But then they would change that to, well, let's make a crappy version and be done with it, just to cut corners.
Yeah, right.
And then they never return to the things, all the good ideas we have for version 2. They just move on to an MVP of another feature. And then if you do that long enough, you have a very crappy product full of UX debt and technical debt. Um, I mean, I don't have a solution for it right now, because that's very tough. That's one of the things I would like to fix in, lots of big projects.
Yeah, what I've heard when I also use this term also, I don't use MVP, I use MLP. So like most lovable product. So it's not a bare minimum. So if you rebrand it, it's like not just the pieces that is needed to get this thing out. It's a first iteration that is also useful. It's also loved by its consumers.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
but also to your point about like how do we ever get back to the shipping and off to the next thing? I think that's where documentation comes into play. I think if you're building out a feature, there's things that are getting cut out. So like here's the ideal, but actually we don't have time. We're going to go with this, to your point, this crappy thing. But if those if those extra things that were kind of left out of that initial push live, if you document them somewhere, they never die because you're going to forget about them unless you put them somewhere. and put that in a place where like everyone has access to.
I think that's documentation is worth it to be a topic of an episode all by itself, especially because now this isn't the first time where you are a salesperson of the documenting way of doing design. You mentioned it earlier as well. So I would personally be very interested to see and hear more about it, especially because I hardly do any documenting myself. Not because I don't want to, but just because that's not really something, coincidentally, something projects I'm in is, it's not something they do. But perhaps that's something I can introduce to them. So, yeah, perhaps at some point you can tell me more about it while
Yeah,
we're recording, of course, so more people can hear about it.
yeah, I think it's super useful. And to quote a famous man named Nick, if it's if it's not documented, does it really exist?
Is that something I said? I don't remember.
It was for a it was on another topic, but same framing.
Right. Well, this Nick person has all sorts of little wisdom nuggets.
I think so. Smart guy, that
Yeah,
Nick.
yeah. I think so. I've maybe one more thing I wanted to mention. You mentioned Plumber as an example of a more basic type website.
Hmm.
The town where like one half my mother's half of the family is from, they have or used to have a famous like cookie factory, and then it's a cookie, it's a flat waffle, and then they roll the waffle and then they put stuff in the middle. uh, you know if you go to their website, then the loading thing is a waffle, and then when you start scrolling, it rolls itself into the final cookie, and then you can see the rest of the website. And then in that case, I think it's a fantastic use of motion and animation, because you want to buy the cookie because you see it being created on the website, and it's
That's
instantly
nice.
creating a connection like, hey, look what they did. That's exactly like it is in real life. So, it's as boring as it gets, plumbing, cookie factory, but then still you're on the edge of your seat on your website because
Hmm.
of the website. Yeah. So maybe animation as an opening sequence for a landing page is a great emotional connector if you're selling a product.
My saying that, my head went into like, how would that plumbing animation
I'm
transition
thinking
and
about
evolve?
toilets now.
So much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I just see, I'm just now seeing like this old school Mario like side walker, where it's you have like see through the pipes, and you can see a little turd falling down. But that's perhaps not something to put on your landing page.
Is someone listening to this make that animation? I would love to see
Yeah, yeah. I think I think they should and send it over here.
it. Please.
Um, yeah. All right. Well, I think we've been able to talk more about animation than I thought was possible before this episode.
Yeah, good talk. I
Yeah.
also love animation, so
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
get to do it very often, but when I do, I get it.
Nice. All right. Um, what's next?
We are, I think, our teaser for the next episode. We're going to delve into the world of branding, um, our perceptions of branding, and maybe different companies' execution of maybe a refresh or brand. And just a couple of examples that we've seen that have been in the news lately, I think we can touch on.
Hmm. Also, things like name changing. Should you change your name? Is that a good idea? Yes or no? And what's with companies changing the color of their logo, and from a yellow to a slightly darker yellow, for example.
Very expensive change, I imagine, but I imagine for a
Yeah.
purpose.
Yep. Oh, I think so. Also, that's going to be very interesting. Looking forward to discussing that with you already.
Perfect. So I guess we'll see each other next time. Uh, and I'm going to reintroduce the cringe. Please like and subscribe and share this content and hit the bell.
Yeah. Ding.
We'll get used to saying that.
Yeah.
Ding.
Yeah. See,
I'm gonna clip
I'm
that
doing
sound.
the sound effects now. Like you're doing the cringe one-liner. I'm doing the cringe sound effects.
I'm gonna clip that ding you just did, and that'll be our new
Oh
outro.
shit! There goes my trustworthiness. I'm slowly turning into a meme right now.
You never know.
Well, it's one way to get famous.
It is. All right.
Well, that's it.
We'll be back. Have a good one.